Okay, Scott Stevens is an award-winning television weatherman who a decade ago began investigating claims by Lieutenant Colonel Tom Bearden that North America was being subjected to full-time weather modification. Now the White House science czar admits they're doing it. During the course of the personal investigation, he was the first to discover the primary reason for the now global chemtrail phenomenon. Scott co-hosts a weekly radio program, and he also joins us right now. Now, since he talked about this 10 years ago and Bob Fletcher 20 years ago and all this, and even back then I'm like, hey, I don't know. Now it's like, hey, the Saudi Arabians, people in Dubai, they're making it rain with these antenna farms. Cloud seeding's the old way to do it. The HAARP and all of this. So he joins us because Hurricane Sandy, well, first off, I want to ask him as a meteorologist, as a weatherman, is it going to be as bad as they're saying, A, with 3 storms coming together, Frankenstorm, and then B, does it look like it's been manipulated? Because weather wars, weather weapons, foreign governments, our own government, I mean, yeah, this may postpone the election. Hey, Stanford Research Institute, Ben Livingston, certified 1967 the government could create and steer hurricanes. That's Fox News, AP, Reuters. Scott Stevens, my friend, tell us what you think's going on right now.
I think it'll not be as bad as everybody's hyping it up to be.
Good.
Storm after storm after storm, you know, they prep, they shut down cities, they do all of these things, and it shows up, yes, we have power lines down, yes, we have trees down, yes, we have flooding. But as far as the Katrina-like damage, I don't see that happening. The wind speeds are not there for that to happen. Now, what it has been curious, as I'm in the West, I've relocated myself to a safe zone in southern Colorado. I'm up at 8,000 feet in a small, self-sustainable community. And what we have seen here is intense engineering. And what they are doing is digging this trough out west to fold Sandy back in along the coast. Earlier in the weekend, actually like Thursday, Friday, it was going to be a New York City landfall, maybe Bridgeport, Connecticut. Now it's southern Jersey. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the Delmarva Peninsula. And so they're just slowly pulling this thing a little bit farther south. So you scare the holy bejesus out of the New Yorkers. They shut down their transit system, and in hindsight, they'll see that that was unnecessary. But the water that's going to come out of this thing from Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, southern Pennsylvania, D.C., Northern Virginia, and then eventually into New York State will be monumental. And that's going to be the thing. It's going to be the downed trees that are still full of foliage, power lines down. There may be locations that are 2 weeks without power. All
right, weatherman, meteorologist Scott Stevens joins us. Scott, I mean, so you're saying, I mean, obviously they admit there's programs, but they're secret. Weather modification, you know, mainstream news admits that. You're saying you're seeing them use that trough to pull the hurricane down towards the south.
Absolutely. Everything is connected, Alex. Everything is connected. At the same time they're digging this trough out west, then they're pumping up a ridge to block the movement of Sandy. Once she becomes extratropical, once she's trapped over land, then a ridge is amplifying off into the western Atlantic, so she has nowhere to go. And so she is boxed in, and she'll rain, and she'll rain, and she'll rain. Rain and water is going to be the problem with this thing. Once we deal with the downwinds, and she kind of spins down in her core wind speed velocity, it's going to be the monumental water that comes out of the storm. Because the cold air, we had places in northwestern Canada, the northwestern territories, that were 0 to 15 below this morning and yesterday morning. It's that cold, dry air that is going to bomb this storm out in the next 24 to 48 hours. And so she will get energized. Even as we look at her spinning down as a tropical entity, it will be reborn as this extratropical perfect storm across Maryland, Pennsylvania. And that is going to impact people's ability to get around, not so much by election day, but in the immediate several days. And so it's all about the rebuilding. It's all about spending the money afterwards. And that's where you can't get Congress to budge on stimulus. It's all about having to do it because we have a disaster to clean up afterwards. Then the people demand it.
And by the way, as you know, they now have on the Chicago Mercantile weather modification exchanges where they bet on the weather. You can literally pull up, no exaggeration, thousands of articles admitting all the other governments that are controlling their weather. But then they say, oh, but we're not doing it. But they admit they've got programs, but that it's just secret. How much weather modification is going on? How does the persistent condensation trails, known as chemtrails, how does that tie into it?
I think they are used, I know they are used as markers. When you're going to lay down an energetic change, whether you're using HARP, whether you're using scalar, whether you're using the Oregon energy, I don't care what tool you're going to use. You need to gauge the efficacy of whatever button you've pushed. And so once you've pushed the button, you need to know what that zone, what
So
that
it's like when they put ink into your a vein to track where blood's going in your body, or when they put a radioactive substance in to have markers on tumors.
Exactly. It's like laying a light wire or a string across a stream of water that's flowing, and then you can see how that stream undulates. Then you can gauge where the eddies, where the currents are, and these are powders, and you can see
so
how
it's gun sights. They're using the aluminum dioxide, barium salts as gun sights, basically, for their antenna arrays.
And then once you've sighted the gun, you pull the trigger, you see how those chemtrails respond to that addition of the energy. You lay down the grid, apply your electromagnetic solution, observe, and then you go out and remeasure. So it is a continual program. Once they began in the 60s, it's never ended. And people are so excited that chemtrails are a recent thing. Oh, middle 90s, they exploded. That's crap. It's been going on since the 60s. The earliest pictures I've got are 1976.
Well, I agree with you, but it did explode in the 90s, though. I mean, it went from testing to full operational.
While we fight to retain our liberty, while we fight to expose globalism, we have to realize we're talking about a very powerful combination of power.
Renowned author and expert Joel Skousen breaks down the globalist plan to shut down America and stage a new world war.
In one day, America will go from day to night. And if you haven't prepared in advance, there's not enough time to prepare in 24 hours, even if you saw it that early.
Coming to the Info War in November is our new documentary film presentation.
Strategic relocation is a systematic way to think strategically in the future about how do I safeguard.
Joel Skousen, Strategic Relocation.
The freeways are going to be crowded, they're going to run out of gasoline, they're going to run out of food, and then they're going to start to go north and south of those freeways.
Joel Skousen is renowned as one of the world's foremost experts in strategic relocation and the securing of your home.
We talk about natural disasters, the health environment, we talk about pollution, the water quality. My personal experience about being in every one of these states.
Government is digging in for the organized, incremental collapse of society and world war.
The U.S. isn't building huge underground bases and bunkers because of some terrorist threat. They know that a massive nuclear attack is coming. They want that attack to come. Most people won't even be ready and won't be able to get out of town when any of these nuclear weapons fall, because there'll be absolute panic.
There is no preparedness without strategy.
What I tell people is that you do have time. Prepare wisely in advance.
This Christmas, give the gift of preparedness. Strategic Relocation, the film, with Joel Skousen and Alex Jones. If you just type in weather modification, geoengineering, Bill Gates is doing it, says he can control hurricanes. Yeah, of course they can. But then you bring this up, oh, there's no way that they're, trying to make the hurricane bad for the election. And then we have a weatherman on breaking down the fact that, yes, it looks like it's manipulation. And I've got all these clips of local meteorologists all over the country saying, this is not normal. They're spraying something here. Since you started talking 10 years ago, as a meteorologist looking at this, it's really opened up now. When the White House science czar 3.5 years ago, the first speech John P. Holdren gave was to the AP. He gave a speech to the AP. They videoed it. He talked about geoengineering and how they've been testing it. So everything's testing because under U.S. Code Title 50, Chapter 32, subsection 1520A, paragraph B, they can do any testing, including lethal stuff, if they call it research. Go ahead, meteorologist Scott Stevens of weatherwars.info.
that's been the situation. It took me a while to get on board with this, Alex. I had come across research right around 98, 99, come across the term chemtrail, and I decided I needed to figure out what this word was. I was always an alternative media kind of guy, being in mainstream and knowing how little information actually gets to the end user. And so I needed to figure this out. And so it was a couple of years before I figured out how the chemtrails played into this grand game of weather manipulation. But they go hand in hand. Not so much that the chemicals impact the storms, but that they are needed there to guide and to gauge the efficiency, the efficacy of the technologies.
Because even the best computer models can't accurately predict from what other meteorologists have said, because it's so complex, they've got to just test what's going on and then manipulate that.
And I think part of that is crap. I think the models are messed up because there's some piece of data, there's some input that they're not getting.
You're saying it's messed up because they don't want anybody to be able to tell what's going on.
Because they're not including the weather modification data in the weather models. If that data was included in the models, then we would have an exceedingly accurate forecast. You could have your forecast for next Friday emailed to you on your iPad or your phone and have it so accurate it would be stunning.
But they're manipulating it so you can't.
No, they're saying they can't do it now. But it's because of this modification. And so even today in 2012, weathermen are no more accurate than they were in 1980. That's what's disturbing. And that's what had me, deep in this research and willing to go down this rabbit hole, because I did not like getting up in front of an audience and having to apologize for a busted forecast. And I needed to know why these forecasts were wrong time and time again. Why in the heck were the guys in D.C. flubbing it up?
Well, let me just stop you for a minute. We've got a London Guardian article up from July. It says U.S. geoengineers that spray sun-reflecting chemicals from balloon experiment in New Mexico will try to establish the possibility of cooling the planet by dispersing sulfate aerosols. So now they're introducing it in literally hundreds of articles a month, like they're just now inventing it. When it was 67, certified by the U.S. government, declassified in 2006, they could create hurricanes with only about 10 aircraft, but punching it back up, they show that corona around the sun that we see when they're chemtrailing constantly. There it is.
So we're back to problem, reaction, solution. Problem is global warming. Problem is climate change. Reaction is we have to do something about it. First of all, it was CO2. They did get that shoved down our throats. So 3 is that disasters have to be so bad that we have to do something active. We have to alter the chemistry of the atmosphere to get things changed. And so this is where they're going to lay this gently out in front of the people. This agenda has been laid out, and to be honest with you, Alex, I believe they are flabbergasted that they've been able to do this blatantly and implicitly for 4 decades without us being none the wiser.
Sir, they're now putting cameras all over the place in the new streetlights where I live, and no one cares. I mean, most people care, but they believe they have no power. And we've confirmed data mining NSA bases in Austin where I live, not just the giant one in San Antonio. I mean, they're openly watching everything we do criminally. They just do what, sir, every major vaccine, when it gets tested, it has all these cancer viruses in it, and no one wonders why cancer is exploding. You're right. They just do it all in plain view.
Yep, and they have to tell us that they're doing it, because karmically, it would be horrific for them on the other side if they weren't honest with us. And they are honest.
That's right. They have these weird metaphysical rules, whatever you want to call it. Look at this article. This is the National Institutes of Health. Saccharin and aspartame compared with sucralose induce greater weight gain in adult Worcester rats and similar total caloric intake. I mean, they've always known aspartame.
And so how many skinny people do you see drinking diet sodas?
You don't. You see giant fat people doing it.
And there's a reason.
But my point is they're killing us. It's sick.
Well, and I don't think this is the kill shot, again, because karmically, metaphysically, the cost is too great for them for the thousands of lifetimes afterwards. They will wait for the planet to do it. I believe there is a kill shot coming.
You know what's funny? I don't believe in all that, but the globalists, it's funny you say that, Ted Turner and others,
they do.
They're obsessed with it. And
you have to understand how they think so you can see how they play the game. And once you understand that, then you see that they will weaken the population, but they won't pull the trigger. They'll let some external energy pull the trigger. And then we're so disconnected from our environment, disconnected disconnected from our family, disconnected from ourselves, that when the kill shot happens, that we're left like worms in the hot sun.
Wow.
And we're unable to find our way into a stable, suitable, and healthy environment.
That's right. And then they always get to be the saviors, though, from whatever problem they've lined up. They tee up the ball, but then let something else hit it.
Exactly. Exactly. They set the stage, and what we're not going to like is the last act in the play.
Well, I agree with you that they're using weather weapons to create extreme weather to then sell this global government that you pay carbon taxes to save you from it. They even brag about that. I mean, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And you're saying as a meteorologist, you're seeing evidence of this hurricane being manipulated.
It has been from the get-go. Alex, there's not 1 square mile in the Northern Hemisphere that isn't managed. Not 1 square mile. What I'm dealing with is how far back that control goes. And it's at least 15 years, and it may be 20 years. And this was my whole worldview that changed in 2004 when I had this epiphany. And this is why Michael Murphy's Why in the World Are They Spraying is so important, even though the reasons and the reasons why the chemtrails were there were not very clearly articulated in that movie.
Sure. Well, we sell What in the World Are They Spraying? And then we've got Why in the World Are They Spraying at InfoWarsStore.com. I mean, I started making a chemtrail film 5 years ago, and there was so much evidence and so many patents and so many admissions under scientific names that I never even got it done because it was just ridiculous.
That was me. I started in 2008, and there was just so much to do. And I had made some investments in the metals. And then when the whole economy went to the toilet in 2008, they crashed the metals prices. I wasn't able to leverage what should have been a bonanza, into this film.
Well, listen, we're basically out of time. I want to get you back on in the near future to break down more as a meteorologist what you see coming up.
Alex, we've got so much to talk about.
But we've got about a minute or so left here, Scott Stevens. You're saying it is being manipulated and controlled, but that it's going to be some flooding, but not that bad. It's just another way to soak the economy.
It's another way to soak the economy, and we're bankrupt, so how are we going to repair it? That's really what the big disasters that are imminently down the road we're going to be faced with is how do we fix this when we have no money?
And we're under Agenda 21 meant to shut down our industry. But I am seeing people starting to wake up. Are you seeing that?
Yep, it's happening. It's happening. Subscribe to the Weather Wars on YouTube. Find me on Facebook, and we'll get this to go viral so we finally have a global discussion.
Weatherwars.info is a great site.
There we go.
All right, thank you so much.
Alex.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon. There he goes. Okay, I'll be back tomorrow, folks. Lord willing, 11 a.m. Central, 12 noon Eastern, with the big 3-hour weekday show. If your local station isn't carrying it, hey, give them a ring. A lot of stations pick up the Sunday show and end up picking up the weekday show. That's quite frankly one reason I started doing this Sunday show 6 years ago, to get our foot in the door with a lot of stations. Look, I wish this stuff wasn't true, but if you research it, sometimes it's not as bad as we think, but most of the time it's worse than we think. And I wish that wasn't the case. I got 3 children. I got a wonderful wife. I got a great family. I don't want all this to be happening. But you got a scientific technocracy that thinks they're God with unlimited tax money from us with a bunch of crazy scientists, eugenicists, population reductionists. Great job to the crew. And again, Lord willing, 11 a.m. tomorrow, Infowars.com is the website, PrisonPlanet.com. And we're also streaming video at PrisonPlanet.tv. Retransmission starts now. The free podcast is, again, at Infowars.com in the Alex Jones Radio Show section. Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.